Mikey P back on the Money Players podcast with one of my favorite guests. I have 2020 BC champ Marshall Gramm with me to do a little Twin Spire segment this week. They have a $1,000 Oaklawn betting contest this Saturday, and we know Marshall loves his Oaklawn. Marshall, you said you're going to beat Oaklawn Saturday. What's up?
Yeah, I'm headed down to Oaklawn for Friday and Saturday's card, and I'm excited about it. I've been to Oaklawn already a bunch of times. I was there a couple weeks ago for their contest, which, for the first time through, I think was a success and something to build on. But it's always a great day to get out to Oaklawn, even have one running that I'm excited about, and we'll talk quite a bit about, and offers an interesting angle today. And but yeah, I mean, look, nothing better than going to the racetrack. The weather's really broken down here. It's beautiful.
And of course, this segment is brought to you by Twin Spires, who has that $1,000 Oaklawn KDBC NHC qualifier for Saturday. So if you go to twinspires.com, go to that tournaments tab, and you can check this $1,000 KDBC NHC qualifier out, and you can qualify this week. Plenty of feeders leading in. So if you're listening to this early, you can still feed into this contest. Of course, we have future contests coming up on this Derby trail for the KDBC. So jump into twinspires.com and get into those tournaments. And Marshall, I know you're a big tournament guy, and we're going to look at this card a little bit as a spot play type segment here for these contests, because it's live money contest. You have to find places where you can plant your flag, build your bankroll.
Yeah, I think this is an extremely challenging card. I think especially the first half of the card. Maidens, 2-life condition horses. There's like a 25 2-life Arkansas bred race. There's some horses that look okay on paper, but might be at a pace at disadvantage. There's a lot to look at that's a real struggle. And the other thing about Oaklawn is, it's not a track that's dominated by big name trainers. There's a lot of smaller time trainers from different regional circuits, and that especially plays a role in these lower end races. Now, again, Mark Cassie's having a great meet, but Cassie's doesn't have the twice beaten 8s running or a Archie bred 25 2-life. And so I thought this is a very tough card in terms of a contest strategy, always looking to try to get to between 6 and 10 times bankroll. I haven't played the Twin Spires contests in a while. As we moved into the new year, I've started looking at them more, trying to get a NHC 2027 or a BCBC NHC 27 or BCBC 2026 or Kentucky Derby betting challenge seat. So I may or may not play. I've not looked at it a while. I know with the way that they're structured, sometimes you don't have to get all the way up to 8 to 10 times bankroll just to get something. So, but even so, finding a 5-to-1 shot on this card, I thought was real tricky. So I thought this is a challenging card. I don't think there are any obvious horses that aren't without real risk. So, and that makes it fun, and that makes it exciting, and that makes it interesting to see how whoever wins this contest navigates their way to their total.
Well, a lot of the guys, if you, I know you say that you haven't been in the Twin Spires contest, but any of these live money contests, usually the first race and the last race play very significant in these contests. And I wanted to look a little bit at that first race because it's straight 3-year-olds. It's a maiden optional claiming 75,000 type going 6 furlongs. And you have a returning horse in the 3-4, that Kenny McPeak barn, one of the bigger trainers that definitely likes to navigate Oaklawn with the 3 horses named Pharaoh, who raced last year at Saratoga and was okay and was in several tough maiden special weight. They tried the grass. This horse was 3rd in that spot, now returns, gets Lasix, gets the dirt, gets a sprint. A lot of guys you would think might, take this horse early to try to maybe get the lead here, maybe, swing some doubles. This is a horse that you're going to have the benefit of the board too, being race number 1. So I know you looked at the first race you mentioned. Any thoughts on this horse? Would this be a horse you maybe want to use or fade?
Yeah, I mean, I looked long and hard at this horse. I mean, he is a horse that ran at 2 Summer Saratoga. I just don't know whether he stands out against this field. It's not like Kenny comes back and just has dominant numbers when they go back in the training. He wasn't at the fairgrounds, so he does have the same Oaklawn issues of having missed a couple weeks of training. And there are other horses that have more recent form and that are just as fast. Now you can sort of predict improvement based on the 68 he ran on the dirt as a 2-year-old. But I also wonder, McPeak took him from that race where he's 40-1 and then threw him long on the turf. And so I just I don't know whether you're sort of taking that race and translating into, now we're back to the dirt sprinting and we're going to be entirely confident that today is the day he gets the job done in this race, which is a maiden auction 75. I think that some of these horses are pretty fast. The Atras horse is pretty fast. Even Cody Rosen's horse ran a decent number at the fairgrounds. I think the Maker horse has some form, was fast first out at Keeneland. So I wouldn't feel, for me, I wouldn't feel confident going into this first race making a big play. Now, there are those others who might want to set up doubles or something out of this to build a number. I know that's a big strategy in these contests, right? A lot of people, a lot of people throw in their big play in the first or second race and sort of try to make the separator there. It's not for me. I thought this is a tough race, and I couldn't even the second race I thought was just as tough, hard to pair up a double.
Yeah, tough. And you have your turning 3-year-olds, you have horses that are laid up. I mean, there's things that can be tricky to navigate, but you have 5 minimums you have to bet in this contest, $50. So some people might play minimums here. I know you were looking towards the back half of the card, the last 5 races, and you could do that in this race. You don't even have to enter until there's 5 races left here. So, depending on how the totals are, is that something that you sort of leaderboard watch a little bit? So say maybe you're at Oaklawn, you're kind of keeping an eye on that leaderboard. Maybe the totals, have been a little low. Would that maybe influence you on taking a couple shots in this contest?
Well, I think it goes both ways, right? So if my interest is in the back half of the card, then I can wait. And there's really no reason for me to buy an entry, because it's not only if the totals are low, what if the totals are high? What if someone jumps out and has a huge score? Now, this one will have multiple seats, but depending on how many seats there are, if there are a couple big scores that I know, my horses won't get me there, then I'm, then I know, hey, I'll just bet in cash. I'll do something different. So I do think there is an advantage. There's, the advantage is you kind of know what number you're getting into if you like the back half of the card. You can sort of target that. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of the game to go, but you're coming in and having at least some idea of what you might want to do. So, yeah, I thought, to me, the first half of the card is very tough. Even you end up on races like the 6th race, which is sort of the first race that I would really look at more intently. And that's a race that has some interesting horses at a price, because the 2 favorites are drawn outside, going a mile, and both are closers. So the circumference of the track and the short stretch of the mile work against them, and they're closers. So it's like those 2 horses, Brilliant Man and Barricade. And I thought both had pretty good trips last time, both the Assison Brilliant Man and the Peter Miller Barricade had good trips last time. And I thought Barricade especially his trip last time in the Beaten 35 was good. I know he takes another drop here, but both of these horses will need to have something in front of them to make a run at, and the mile might be their undoing. And so, again, whether I don't know that this is a race that I would play, but I'm much more interested in some of the horses that have shown more speed. I think Lear is interesting at 10-1, a 10-1 morning line. Had somewhat of a wide trip last time. It's actually a fairly good trip. I was hoping to find more. He broke from the 9-hole and 12-horse field, was able to get over and compete with those front runners who both finished behind him, but actually fairly quickly was able to drop in for a good stalking trip. So was a little bit wide, breaking from the 9-hole, but was able to pull back and rate with determinedly, and both of them were able to get the run on the leaders and finished off well in that race. I also think for these Oaklawn horses, I know that this is a fairly quick turnaround, a 14-day turnaround, but remember, these horses, a lot of them didn't train at all for 10 days. And so I view this as a positive. These horses are coming out of the first weekend back and running back on 2 weeks, especially for these smaller trainers and smaller outfits who may not train as hard. I think coming in with a race makes a difference. So I think that horse is interesting at a price to move the number. And then an even maybe crazier horse is We Need a Favor, who in that Barricade race That Barricade race was a race that was a beaten 40, and most of the horses in that condition were three. None was a 3, but there was also a horse named Papa Yo who I used to own and had Bentley Combs, who towered over the field and won pretty convincingly. So he was kind of in his own race with the other horses, and We Need a Favor was 7-1 in that race, so was fairly well bet and was on the lead on a pretty fast pace. He did come back going 6 furlongs last time and didn't run much, but I don't like, to me, that race is meaningless. This horse is a distance horse, and that was a horse to give this horse race, to put it in this spot. You're going to get every bit of 20-1. And I'm not sure this horse is fast enough. You have to go quite a ways back in its form and trust Thistle Downs to give this horse a real fighting chance. But I think those are 2 long shots that might be interesting plays. They might, ultimately they may be a little too far-fetched to play, but those are 2 horses that interest me in the spot. I don't know they'd be tournament plays or not. They'd be part of my multi-race sequences. Maybe I'd make smaller win bets. Maybe I'd use a minimum and try to get some bigger bankroll to work with.
Yeah, you mentioned the 2 there earlier, and that horse came out of that race on February 7th to race pretty well on Monday here. King Peanut, I thought raced pretty well on Monday. So, that a horse that came back out of there and certainly has and you're going to get a price. I mean, this horse never takes money. 20-1, 17, 38-1. I mean, you get an inside post and it's 3 lives. So, I don't mind you taking a shot there with a couple long shots. And like you mentioned, maybe a minimum, maybe something to move the ball a little forward there in race number 6. Let's go to the 7th race. Go ahead.
And the favorites probably win that race. So it's more along the lines, if I'm playing a pick 5, it would be a situation where maybe I take these 2 bombs to try to create a separation. I don't know about a contest, right? I don't know about a contest. Maybe a smaller play to try to get a number. But yeah, moving on to the 7th. The 7th is where I feel pretty good about Bolt on the Rocks. I think he drew really well this outside post when there's a medium-sized field. 7 or 8, 9 post when it's the outside post does have an edge at Oaklawn, and I like this horse moving from the inside where he was glued to the rail last time. This is Bolt on the Rocks. He was glued to the rail last time, and now he draws the outside and should set a good trip either on the lead or right off the pace. The race before was going a mile, which is probably too long for this horse, and really a poor ride by the Bug Mendoza. Was off the pace initially after breaking a little slow, and then made this sort of ridiculous early move down the backside to move into the lead. So it's this giant middle move in the race, but it's really not even it's really an early move to move to the lead down the backside and then faded. And so, I don't take either of those things against him. I think a mile is probably too far, and I think the move was really ill-timed as well. So I think this is a horse that is very trustworthy. I think that the drop from 30-20 makes sense. I think they'll probably lose a horse, but I don't think it's something that's red flags. And I think should sit a great trip. And I think maybe a little bit short in the 5-2, but this is the horse I'm looking to play here.
So what did you make of the race last time, though? Because that was a bit of a boat race, right? They went 1-2 around the track, and he sort of went. He was third pretty much the whole way around. Does that something to give you pause at all here? I mean, I realize that this is a little bit more of a drop. He's shown speed in the past. You think he's going to get the outside stocking type trip here? And then you have to contend maybe with the 6 coming off the Amos claim. That one gets back to the dirt. If you look at that last dirt race on November 7th, this horse lost to a horse that's won 5 races in a row. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah. So, part of it is what kind of money each of these horses takes. And I want the 9 to take money. It's interesting in these contests. I think about it a little bit differently, and I want to see that my 9's taking money. I'm curious how they bet the Amos coming off the synth, coming off the claim, putting in this spot that is a pretty clear for sale spot, right? Because I think that horse gets taken coming out of those starters. So I don't know that move doesn't inspire a ton of confidence in terms of them really wanting to keep this horse. I think this drop is much more subtle. As far as the last time being a merry-go-round, he was glued to the rail and sort of stuck on the rail. And, the rail, I don't know if the rail was necessarily good or bad that day in particular, but the rail has typically not been the greatest place to be at Oaklawn, and the rest of the field was off the rail, and he's the only one there. A lot of these races at Oaklawn, sort of the maybe the best path is the 2-path. So he's stuck on the rail. So I'm willing to forgive that, and then taking the mile drop down the 20. I'm willing to forgive both those races, and hopefully in return for what you're saying, that gives us a little bit of a price, but doesn't balloon up to something where it's clear the horse isn't live.
Race 8, Arkansas breds. You got the no double here. A lot of familiar faces here, Marshall. Horses that sort of show up every year, like Bohemian Beau, that has been in this race several years in a row. Can this one get back to? I mean, he won last time by an inch. I'm sure they were looking to this spot again. 8-5 morning line. Is this another horse you are going to lean on for maybe a contest type play, like an all-in type push, or you prefer?
Yeah, so I mean, this is one you can sort of build on, because I do think he'll be even money, and is a horse that I think is the controlling speed of this race. And there's really two groups of horses in this race. There are these very classy Archie bred stakes horses like Bohemian Beau and Navy Seal, and then there are other horses that are coming out of the state bred two other than, that are up and comers. Like I think a lot of Touchdown Arkansas, and I think there's no doubt Touchdown Arkansas is going to improve off that last race, but I don't know if he's really ready to step up from a state bred Arkansas race to face the likes of Navy Seal and Bohemian Beau, who've been competing with open horses at Churchill Downs. I mean, Navy Seal was running in stakes. Bohemian Beau was running in two other thens, and so open two other thens. So I think that Bohemian Beau is the class. Bohemian Beau and Navy Seal are the class of the field, and Bohemian Beau is the controlling speed. And so that's the direction I'm going to go in. And if you get even money and maybe can tie that up with Bolt on the Rocks, or tie it up with a horse I like in the 9th, maybe that more than doubles the price you're going to get. If you get 2-1 on Bolt on the Rocks, maybe if you combine that with a double, maybe that double is 8-1, and that, maybe that does it for you. I don't know. It depends on, in this case, it depends on the effect your bankroll has on the double, the size of the double. But it's important to remember that the double pays more than the parlay typically, right? Based upon the takeout at Oaklawn, it should pay about 1.2 to 1.3 times parlay. I probably should have done the math before, but it's between 1.2 and 1.3 times parlay, assuming that the markets are close enough aligned. And there's no reason to think they might be. There's a chance that you may make a big bet, it may throw it off, but either way, it should pay more than parlay, 1.2 to 1.3 times. So when you like two horses that are in back-to-back races, and you don't make too big of a bet in a contest where it damages your price, then it's probably worth playing the double. It does lock you in. That's the downside of it. It does lock you in, but that could be the upside of Bohemian Beau is 3-5. So yeah, it depends on what I'm seeing from the previous race, and if this is a place that I want to, if this is a place where I want to plant my flag and put those two horses together.
Well, you have your horse in race number 9 that maybe you could look to build on. I'm not sure. Maybe you think this is a good spot for the 11 here in race number 9. This is a rating systems race also, which is something that's new, I would imagine, to even people they're looking at races day after day like us. They don't run many of these races. So what's your take on that? And then give us the skinny on your horse.
So I could not be more excited for this race. I don't know whether. I don't think we're the horse to beat. It's not what I had hoped it would be field-wise. I think it's much harder than I thought it would be. We saw the ratings race in the book when the new book for after the break. Oaklawn didn't run in January. So we saw this race in the book and targeted it a long time ago. Coming out of our allowance win, we targeted this race. So Liuza is a 3 other than horse at most racetracks, but Oaklawn doesn't count allowance wins where the purse was less than $40,000 or the winner's share was less than 24 grand. And so Liuza had won allowance races at Remington Park and at Sam Houston. So when we claimed this horse for 40 at Churchill, we had circled the A other than at Oaklawn because it has a $115,000 purse. And we knew this horse, even though it was a 3 other than at Churchill Downs and at most tracks, it was an A other than at Oaklawn. So we circled that spot. We won the spot with a great trip on December 14th, closing into the field at 5-1, and we achieved our goal. So boom, we did what we wanted. We claimed the horse for 40. We put it in other than at Oaklawn, and we won. And at that point, we didn't quite know what to do. The horse is suddenly a 4 other than at every other track, which they don't write, except for, Oaklawn wrote that one for Sandman, and a 2 other than at Oaklawn. And we thought the 2 other than was going to be too tough. And so we saw the ratings race and we circled it. And at that point, Liuz's rating was an 81, and the race is written as an 80 to a 70. So we weren't eligible to run. So we found a spot at the fairgrounds that we thought we would have a chance to win if the horse took to the turf. But if we ran off the board, we would drop in rating and be eligible for this race. And we speculated that most of the field would be made up of horses that were A other than horses. So that was our objective. Our objective was to go to the fairgrounds. If we knew that in a 5.5 furlong race that she would be pretty far back. If she made one run and won, great, we won that race. And sometimes I've seen winning. Sometimes I've seen horses win a race and drop in rating. And so, but if we ran off the board, if we ran poorly, we would fall in rating and be eligible for the ratings race. So we ran in the race, we ran 6th. Right, we took back as we expected. We didn't have as much speed as those turf sprinters. Took back, made one run, but just didn't have enough. Mm-hmm. And we dropped in rating to a 78. We became eligible for this race. So that was the great news. We're excited about it. We sort of were really looking forward to this spot. And then we reached out to Saez to ride us back, and we heard Saez was on another horse, and we're like, "What the hell? Who the hell could be better than us in this spot?" And then we looked more closely and we saw that he'd committed the Tap It Quick, who had run 3rd in the Poinsettia and was basically a stakes place horse who was 3 other than eligible. And so we're like, and when we even look at this race, we see that there are other horses that are real classy. Pistol's eligible for this race, and Pistol's a 3 other than. So we entered the race. It didn't go. He bought it back on the overnights and actually changed the ratings. So initially he changed it to 84 to 75. And so at that point, we're like, well, this is ridiculous. He's raising the rating. But then he dropped it back to 79, and the race filled. And we knew that Pistol would be in here. Pistol's won her 3 other than, and is a very nice horse. But I think we stack up very favorably to that horse. And I think that we're going to get a great trip from the 11 hole. I see this and view this very similarly to our race on December 14th. It's a slightly better field, but I think we're going to sit a great trip from the outside. And whereas on the 14th, we had to have an inside out trip. In this trip, I think we'll be able to settle mid pack and make a good run. I think there is pace in here for us to run against, to run down. And I also think there are horses that will take money. So I think that Liuza will be 5-1. And so, whereas it's not the field that we thought it would be from a ratings race standpoint, when we went to the fairgrounds and got our number down to a 78, I still think we fit very well in here. And I think that we're going to get the perfect trip. I think we drew great, and I think we're going to get 5-1. Right. So I'm betting my horse and excited about betting my horse. In the Twin Spires contest, I can play my own horse. Now, this can be your undoing, right? Sometimes you have the blinders on and it's hard to see the forest for the trees with your own horse. And I admit, as an owner, that can be true for me both ways. I've had very many situations where I've hated my horse, thought I had no chance, and the horse has won. It happened this year at Oaklawn with a horse named Thestral, who we were hoping to run for open 30. We ran an allowance race because the 30 didn't go. She was bet down to 5-1, which I thought was preposterous. And I was at the track that day and watching from a different area, assuming that we'd finish off the board, and somehow she won. And I had to run half the track to get to the winner's circles. I was stunned. So again, it's easy to have blinders, but I think we really fit well. I think she's been training well. We circled this spot. And Matt has really good numbers going from turf to dirt, which is sort of meaningless. I don't think that's a statistical anomaly, but he's 7 for 34 with a positive ROI. But I looked at those numbers yesterday and it actually pissed me off because 2 of those horses are horses we ran at Kentucky Downs just because we were taking a shot. So that's not even a real stat. But I think there's a lot that has me excited about the horse, and I think we're going to get the right price. I think people are going to bet Pistol. I think they're going to bet Spring Dancer. I even think they're going to bet Tilted Lady. And so I think this puts us in a good position to get a price because some of these other horses that run in stakes are coming off big efforts.
Yeah, that turf race you ran, the Shining Star, popped a 103 buyer yesterday. So really no chance versus that one. You get the right post here. And yeah, like you mentioned, other horses are going to take money in here. So I think you'll get every bit 5-1. You might even get a little more depending on, how things get bet and how the track plays. But definitely a good look to the 11 race number 9 on Saturday at Oaklawn. Well, Marshall, basically out of time here, but the last race of the contest is typically very, very important. You have 10 claimers. It's numbers of 2 in a period of time since August of last year. So these races are very wide open. You have anything to get out here? Do you like the 3 Excel calculator? That one looks to have some back numbers, back lines, is a closer, and should get a little bit of a setup. Or it's the last race, so you're going to have to get to a number to win it.
Yeah, I think Excel calculator is going to win. So I feel pretty good about that. I don't know that I'd bet that if I bet the double into the horse, I'd want to make sure that it was the favorite double. I would be worried if Excel calculator were dead on the board because there is some, this is a pretty significant drop down the 10. They did enter this horse for 24 in scratch. And I wonder if they just decided, hey, let's get in the right spot and let's beat these other horses. I think this is a better horse in this field. And I think also should sit a relatively good trip as well. And so again, I think this horse is a very safe bet, and at the right price, this would be my play. I know it's nothing sexy about taking the favorite in the last race, but this race should have a lot of speed. I think East Side Cool is the horse that has to go from the outside. When he won on January 12th. He broke from the 12 hole and basically cleared the field, and then was in a very tough spot last time and not able to make the lead and faded pretty badly. That gives them the benefit to drop for 10, but they're in the 11 hole and they're going to go. And there's other speed as well in the race. The little Steven, who is wide 2 back at 37-1, and they put on Amanda Poston, who has a couple wins at huge prices. And this horse won at 44-1, in wire-to-wire fashion on a very fast pace going a mile. And so this horse is going to go as well. So I think there's a chance this race really heats up. I think the trip should work out well for Excel calculator. And if he's even money or more, that would be my play.
Well, fantastic card. You mentioned very difficult card for Saturday at Oaklawn. You're going to be in the house. I think you mentioned you're going to bring Matt Miller to the house. I'm sure he'll be big into the contest. He is very active in the Twin Spires contest. So appreciate having you here for this segment. Always appreciate your insights, Marshall, especially for the handicapping side, the contest side, and of course, appreciate your support of the network. And good luck Saturday, and hope to talk to you soon.
Appreciate having me on.
It's been a production of In the Money Media. Jump into Twin Spires, their contests, and Saturday's $1,000 BCBC NHC qualifier. We'll see you all next time.